is an ongoing emergency. Don't panic, you're already living in it. Bombs have been dropping everywhere we go, from Long Beach to Austin, where you're living in the apocalypse now. But it seems like the debate community has been accustomed to the wars that are happening now. I've heard speeches for the Black America face on the bottom of the script that nuclear winter, mass starvation, people go hungry, and climate change. You want to know what we think about the topic? We do not think of a U.S. China class on SES. We isn't talking about the Russian failures for strike by SKC Ukraine. We're not about AQ North Caucasian, the IS targeting Indian nuclear plant because the W bomb has not been thinking 20th anniversary of the pandemic time. We think about the nuclear bomb slavery dropping in 2026, taking Africans from their homeland and families to be used as property for the rest of the world. That's like over 12 million years old. We think about the bomb of the Emancipation Proclamation, of false promise and political stuff for Lincoln, to gain popularity to become president. We were promised for a game and just how the bomb dropped us, that we weren't getting it from slavery to Jim Crow into slavery under the 13th, the slavery patrols into the police plantations to redlining segregation. The bomb just kept on coming. CIA sponsored crack pitcher only black community in the end cycle of addiction, algorithmic policing, and disadvantage of black around neighborhood, creating apocalyptic active fear resistance in the cities of Los Angeles, New York, Detroit, Chicago, and more. Negative say actually good. Oh, you meant the safe blocking neglect like medical anti-blackness, the housing crisis, job creation, massive spread of HIV, and black community deterrence good. Oh, you meant the bombing of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Philly, neighborhood against move, 16th Street, Bastard Church in Birmingham, crackdown, black relation, forest time, kill all because black people want to secure a future for themselves, no step to the chain. How about that in 2023, 84 POC for you, which has 10 women and 7 of the guns, we say people are meant to run friendly, friend, my 48, 8% of the gender by authorities or the press. Oh, I get it, the bomb is discriminated, so politicians will bomb Mexico, indigenous people are systematically deprived of this a basic infrastructure like water, electricity, anti-Asian hate crimes on all time. How the U.S. is helping Israel drop weapons of mass destruction on Palestine. We are not approaching the end of the war. We are already living in it. You're scared of nuclear winter, mass starvation, violent and positive conditions. We've been there, done that, from NFU to the assurance to disarm the conventional shift. The topic where we have to roll this serious debate that end the universe line discourse of white, that nuclear war is the impact to avoid while watching the apocalypse edition of white supremacy that turned death before and after the bomb that's backing up. 19 nuclear cities, lightning claiming the only matter of time of no nuclear nation threatening the U.S. and use right discourse rate imply one phase of one nuclear war, only one way to million on the Friday. That's been the American intellect to have different view. Why the foreign leans of course any man the Americans not would use bomb the white full into the would not be universal. What white Americans be? That's the old thing. Fears also represent the fears of black survival and the quadrilogical racism, contradicting theories of extinction and racial turn like all the way to the bomb. But after white supremacy so instructed to somehow build a shelter for people color instructed to feed the city unclear how like the leaders can put the tense form that intersected the post-apocalyptic narrative, nuclear war and cold politics, slavery, offer tactic for disrupting it and trivial debate. Fear the different approach to the topic because the style of debate it associates black and would require to confront its own fear with his loss of fairness. Her totally also being able to defeat the nuclear black nuclear weapons target and not really do Dr. White, not only doing the American prices to the white smart because I was election yesterday, and black people are never something to preserve white life against people like the teaching king of Martha Aubrey, Trayvon Martin. They made that the black and brown people across the globe were due to the embodiment of civil pedagogy. The future out of America comes after deterrence of black futures that's truly organization services defense and the race of the president determined between people outcome of redlining policy, qualifying the black white and the black men even their rule declined the racial side and both their religion fact and free listen and disposability became necessary for civil defense and armies. The world the cities received the hidden orders of damage military built over the cities supposedly allowed for massive and civilian life with the consequence of hyper familiar doesn't comment nuclear every second like high employment on the housing where bombs drop on communities every day and protect the white suffering the American fail saying not only because of nuclear threat in the American city but because of it in the black city to serve the practical solution to the racial crisis and from the destruction of black communities the supposed threat of nuclear war for another period of power the fantasy of nuclear conflict and the search for a correct nuclear posture to create the benefit for sustaining white infrastructure for white services future. We must disarm the civil defense political that causes whites to take itself with nuclear weapons as meetings 23 policies are what's in the history of agree with nuclear fantasy and take it with the race practice raising copy everything practice and not ratified to join the race hierarchy based on nuclear policy take place in terms of the constituted by position and pleasure open the right relation question how weapon effects subjectivity germane to study another approach directly and see how dialogue is sustained and consider how the disarm the nuclear taking it directly to the business and the hierarchy the nuclear general fantasy and are not simply track the ways of the rocket but to use the world of the comic systems by atomic genocide and nuclear scenario playing is a form of civil defense politically that's informed through ignorant conversion. When you hear Emory say the words nuclear war affect black people too is a white supremacist guy that only saves black life if it's meant white life is to continue on living that present to that when you're vulnerable reference in nature will the nuclear attack realize thinking family likely prepare for emergency women the current coordinating woman protect your anxiety the prepare shelter and includes you white American women were representing the African American women who is on the ground that might be subversive and this kind of anchored for the during like all white and planes for like including African American groups and material and so white and school representing the hierarchical relationship for things like new kids spelled active to repeat active so civil defense teacher rate the nuclear education with it persuaded prayer preaching the paradigmatic utility with the civic garrison to duck and cover routine works of nuclear war dual purpose of civil defense calls they knew besides why that didn't have to be enacted rehearsed in order to consolidate from racialized others. Black features should not have to come at a cost. Black feature where the Brianna and the teachers can walk outside without a black warrior war them with black people don't gotta worry about curly hair ruin job interviews don't gotta worry about the po pulling them over where hate is gone. They're replaced with love. Futures where the like the civil defense that just fighting for nuclear weapons is disarmed. Futures where black lives have a roof over their head, where doctors can be trusted in the open. Books at school that have faces like that look like them on the page. Thus, we some people should disarm the United States nuclear force and civil defense through atomic Afrofuturism on Black History Month. The ballot to go for the team and provide the best method for black liberation is required. Each side to present arguments counting the black radical edition, or if not met the burden of honoring Black History Month. One urgency, Texas unique urgent site to uplift black voices from the history of lynching and slavery patrols and Jim Crow to police brutality, mass incarceration, and Governor Abbott's book ban essentially used bait as a competitive space to test resistance strategies. Two, anti-blackness. Second is reparations. The history of unfairness to black communities, both inside and outside of space, requires epistemological action and disruption during Black History Month. That's Jackson 20. White people felt like if you want the freedom of Black American non-American general Black content of American history, live instead of preparation there is responsible knowledge. Business of our conversation, we give voice to the black people who not really done whether recognized or not. We can see opportunity on the necklace. Competence of Black American and Black Americans on one side of the outside the way, and all friends of criminal form reparation, American history, past and present, really. Much of people's race to act like it's already law, making the race to be does for 28 days. And 3, erasure from activists to scientists. Black people have been erased from the topic. That's Evans. 21, the man has brought really not the back over the relegated many jobs regardless of experience black scientists play. People live in the topic bombing in the black and facing the other lab task. You're protecting your building, where black warriors are housing, with the 65 cities, you're giving a show, one of the one so no blowing away, with a for men and hand for black warriors, retributing the limb for your condition, and refers to refuse to eliminate stores and restaurants in their book and research news, and then you want to see me return the oak created looking, with behind the goods, the black lives, and the goods, everyone's and Molly Taylor, the rather government, everything, and Rican, and George, when they read and the look, women, the Lawrence, and William, not the Henry, Benjamin, College, after Jeffrey Wilco, the Daily Side position during the urging German to not use the bomb the best way to use some and revenge for was the win, the how they go against the black generation, black scientists, the black man, and the change the war in the science and American politics. And the one you see before the animations through remembering the black future through the past of slavery, which reduces the general condition for black life. Just backing off anti-nuclear criticism of the folks on Google on the account for the like being the end of the world, between African black and involved for the beginning of nuclear and night, but it's also dropping in the missiles and anti-nuclear jobs and the beginning of the memory future and the world remember having to slavery and the memory future goods and the money we can stress about the memory future with the future memory practicals here in the state. They're everything of how the group was like love how they're hardly representing about new version future and free right future and beauty. It doesn't prepare for one. And in order to combat black future system must align yourself with the black and brown people on the ground now that are fighting against the apocalypse from groups in Texas such as the Austin Justice Coalition. We must embody and align ourselves with the pedagogy of black liberation movement in order to create black future beyond the end of the world. Thus our performing nuclear jazz is the body form reports has carved out the space for black resistance that chapter 21 jazz can protect the refugees my titular this are good jazz about this jazz quo every kind of barrier jazz always been political faculty not everyday lad that jazz allows to be heard in the ability how they frank food from the lynching and shipping Abraham family people protecting the government or power calling national guard block integration jazz about the nuclear war the high value resistance this special accessibility no pressure read dance off goes about the nuclear weapons people are making accessibility and competition black in the first week of the bomb Hiroshima over history the reason black people gonna be race music. And this is a form of post memory that refuses the circulation of white press in favor of circulating black resistance, which historically mobilized communities that still so 22 other people world where they were like circulating by black and go like when he tried to not see black people in all the world where they real that under white heroism we feel on the go back with work operations institutions black press has not been sorry for the activism and black resistance post memory from the white experience divided by the crucial navigating interpreting most divided into the talk we're taking a response to that may but it was a for white media and spending running history critical back memory margin out the mobility box for memory offers to make the organized for the future organizing criticism of the past and future post memory offers together the past over the future black and the organized learn from the but incidents find the also including money for black people and with the new form the quicker math of black people should be by the time to do the general fans they create any to bear witness for the reason that wins as well as those deaths at the back community job places of rifle independent how the men's power and against the nuclear sensitivity for the debate we challenge the resolution to Iraq State's point that sent the career with the class over necessary for the Pittsburgh of Greta Smith 2020 Valentine and in the world of the talk with the attitude quick back in line into the rest of the party men's sacrifice goes basically going the right of the learning world the like we're talking military lines no one we find here to run that the military stuff like prickly in the court not being to do balance how they will try robbing in the gym like South Philliesville and Emporia and then negative ground reading all together New York State's point it was without arguments on the game teacher have at the arguments and very over in about the emotions you the progress betting on the target forces you the more stuff the feature on the bug and traditional nuclear debates maintain a hegemonic train and nuclear and that range sets as close Richie 2020 hegemonic and nuclear circulating with the Brazilian confidence test nuclear weapons all the train nuclear engines saw threaten them shutting out safe over the war empowering the Ukraine the nuclearization of doing for Finland the Great World and the other species when the green speed the anti-nuclear right there the critics against nuclear tend to be absent and holding your paradise said I will in fact vote for head good not this round sorry hedge and cap both rely on the exploitation death and genocide and erasure of black bodies which means it's an unethical argument to support during Black History Month.
Are you sorry, do you want to turn down your volume and then both
yeah I turned it down
so okay hold in no echo okay I got a thumbs up you good for concepts
yeah I don't know my water here but I guess it's fine
do you want to grab some
it's fine
okay I want to start off with the 1AC's method. We, some people, should disarm the United States' nuclear force as civil defense. Can you just define civil defense for me?
Yeah,
What does
sure.
that
So we
entail?
think the 2AC will read answers for why we think civil defense is a nuclear force. We think it's a way not only in which the United States and white supremacy views threats, right, which is all the Hurley evidence above that talks about the way that we perceive people is through to this like understanding it as a threat to the sovereign nation. That's bad because it enforces and incentivizes the death of black people because they will always be seen as threats to the
So
United
is it
States
the sovereign nation that's civil defense?
We think it's the pedagogy that we learn in this space that's related to the construction of nuclear weapons.
Okay,
And the way
and
that
what-
we perceive threats through the topic.
So it's just threat construction that's civil defense?
Well, it's not just threat construction, right? I think that's like a very like flattening view.
Can you give me some examples of like what
Sure.
is civil defense and what isn't civil defense?
That's a very broad question. It's like what is epistemology, what isn't, like I feel like.
But like that's sort of my
very
question,
broad.
right? It's like you're saying you disarm civil defense, and if you're analogizing this to just like what
Well, it's
isn't,
like you're like what is and what isn't. I could be like a deer, a fox, a toe is like all stuff that isn't civil defense. So I don't think that's like a really.
But like how do we know when something is and isn't civil defense?
Sure. So
like
we
if we're
think all of our evidence is very specific about the nuclear education that the topic produces, right, and how we learn it. We think reenactment, like the reenactment of civil defense in these spaces, is what allows for us to embody this sense of like
are
white
nuclear
identity
weapons civil defense?
Huh?
Are nuclear weapons?
We think
civil
civil defense is a nuclear force that we have disarmed.
But if you said nuclear education is an example of civil defense, are nuclear
It's
weapons
like-
themselves civil
It's like
defense?
nuclear weapons are informed by the discourse of civil defense because it like acknowledges and forces to understand who to point the nukes at.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, civil defense is also an infrastructure of like nuclear infrastructure
So
as well.
if nuclear weapons are informed by civil defense, does the disarming civil defense mean that it got rid of nukes?
It would get rid of the need to use nuclear weapons in the first place.
That makes sense. I have a question about the 1AC's relationship to the Austin Coalition.
Yeah.
You list examples of things in relationship to the pedagogy of Black liberation movements, the Austin Justice Coalition.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the Austin Justice Coalition is doing a lot of things currently. What does the 1AC's alignment do to change the things that the
So we
Austin
think
Coalition is doing?
the Austin Justice Alliance, or the coalition that we stated, is one that focuses towards the construction of Black futures, which we think aligning ourselves through the embodiment and reading the 1AC, along with aligning ourselves with movements that have the same goals, is key to be able to motivate and incentivize people to engage in Black futures outside of the space. Which
So
we
what
established as
new
critical.
Black futures come about that are not currently being produced by the
Sure.
Austin
So we think
Justice
there's a
Coalition?
narrative at the top of the 1AC. If you didn't see it, it gives the examples of how we wish that the Briannas and the Letitias of the world can walk around without a Black worry, or not have to worry about curly hair in job interviews. Look at books that have pages of them, which is our criticism of the topic in the way it erased Black scientists who made this resolution possible in the first place. Which is why Affirmative Black History Month is key to combat that erasure, especially in a place like Texas that has been the first key step in eliminating critical race theory.
If everyone's good for an order, I set the 1 and C. It's 4 then case.
Just give me a couple minutes. I need to scroll up. You said it's 4?
Yeah.
Can you see if my volume on the table? Over there? No, we were sitting outside. Fine.
What kind of water bottle was it?
It was like the Crystal Geyser one. Fuck it. Why Devin chose this kind of
Yes. Oh wait, I might have responded to the old chain. It's annoying. Wait, should I
Yeah, it was
get
the old
new
chain.
Yeah,
one?
my
Oh
bad.
yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was.
I'm gonna just delete this shade.
Okay, sorry. I sent it to the old chain. I forgot
you're
his
good.
name, but it should be sent now.
Alright, I'm good.
Yeah, now? Okay, close that. Zoom it up. The volume's up. Okay, you all are good?
Yeah.
Topicality finality, the resolution to define the division of ground negotiated not to advance for any both teams a reasonable opportunity to apparently a textual reading of the resolution provides a predictable basis for research results means to enact policy by law, words and phrase 64 definitions specified by resolution proposed while the limit be tested by law. In the United States, a collective term that requires action by the federal government. Oakley and Armour 9, United States, the collective term used access through the greater powers with governmental powers distributed propagated to government and the 50 states and the executive and Congress has sole authority over restrictions in the use of nuclear weapons. In the 19th century, nuclear Congress prior to nuclear weapons, choice of which weapon is the presidential authority. Congress prior to include the authority to place restrictions on the use of weapons and should require mandatory action. Court of Appeals, Arizona 2 should its most commonly used to express material rather than discretionary and strict requires a direct government limitation for 2 and 12 restriction for not keeping relevant to the purpose of the facts interpretation restriction direct government limitation. It disarming requires abolishing use nuclear arsenal equivalent disarmament. The absence of any useful use to nuclear weapons disarmament requires minimum dismantle all nuclear devices first have been disarmament. Nuclear weapons would need to be dismantled its entire arsenal and nuclear forces refer to all weaponry and infrastructure supporting the use of nuclear weapons. Robert's 23 U.S. nuclear forces refers to the platform weapons support system and command and control assets associated with military infrastructure to conduct nuclear combat operations. Vote neg 1 clash of type motivates in-depth research that yields values mitigation argument refinement information explodes limits allows affirmative conditionality makes debate a one-sided monologue devoid of argumentation which turns the case 2 neg 2 fairness. The neg Sherman on average 50% of the time entering a competitive activity proves their arguments are shaped by a drive to win. The insurmountable advantage of being affirmative under their unpromoted reason they should lose. Next, the advantage cannot play in the United States should. Then suburbanization, establish a universal housing scheme, increase the minimum wage to $20 an hour, and provide substantial unconditional debt-free subsidies, movements to support housing and anti-gentrification measures solves the entire case. The top of the one he sees a criticism of how geographic zones have been created in response to the bomb. The counterplan bans the suburbs is what their Bogkov evidence is about, which we've highlighted in blue. The second and third planks solve their evidence describes high unemployment, poor housing as quote bombs that are dropped on communities every day. The counterplan rectifies it by increasing the minimum wage and increasing universal housing. Their evidence is also in blue. Next is the nuclear energy DA. The one he sees nuclear limitations fulfills U.S. maintenance NPT obligations. 1/7/31 NPT faces dotting issues review cycle doubling into NPT exercise NPT construction. If states take action upon advancing solar disarmament states to cooperate on articles 6 of the NPT a grand bargain share peaceful nuclear tech while non-nuclear states agree to safeguard the peaceful use and WS grown and frustrated by the lack of action on disarmament when other goals drive their literacy from disarmament ensuring compliance on the proliferation of states and WS hold their part and that walks in international nuclear energy W and then 21 entries towards NPT corners of the peaceful use nuclear energy be further expanded to other energy and ambitious climate goals of peace and risky nuclear energy testing called knowledge and nuclear energy along with core technology calling you efforts to do nuclear tech we call to work centrally internationalization and nuclear tech facilitate transfer nuclear tech as a develop a robust regime that meets NPT. Nuclear power expands and intensifies radioactive colonialism. Hawken and Rama in 23 nuclear fuel produces enormous hazard waste for the one generating and there's international injustice even if the waste are short repositories that we leak out nuclear waste additionally linked to other social injustice have been mined from other areas of indigenous peoples in Australia, Canada, and the US indigenous peoples after calculable health consequences of communities have become to the years of environmental the process terms radioactive colonialism and inability more if nuclear powers were to expand should be a strong reason to reject this option and nuclear energy makes global growth inevitable from an in 9 conventional wisdom strong dangerous all types of nuclear resistance risk role of peaceful nuclear co-op proliferate causally connects with the dual use nature and no hostilities co-op provide tech materials and necessary for nuclear program helps expertise to analysis and indicate and also significant effects on proliferate international communities through peaceful atomic assessment could serve as effective arms control findings or reveal the efforts uploaded by fighting nuclear energy when its loans to the and NPT can have damaging effects in global proliferation ensures extinction by 2022 proliferation method of promoting peace not taking into account and all other nuclear explosion nuclear terrorism spreading nukes drastically increase the chance of unknown detonations to the chain reaction of catastrophes from which there will be no return. Next is the K. Capitalism creates the conditions of state violence. Our critique does not deny the importance of identity, rather only understanding class meeting condition of oppression can make movements effective. Health 16 communities be state opposition to market logic led the policy that promote private and public our schools justice as a military public police public policy but never look at the private sector left vulnerable wedge between negligent government and corporate conditions reflectively the vulnerability of social order. The result can be race and left to die to child race and they can be understood without class race based condition race relations race and sex other forms of oppression produce sustained lives on the all forms of just due to class rather we can understand depression without radically changes in the defense class all class for example to Flint and Stanford underneath each set of academic conditions and their nuclear jazz have been coalition building all in 8 there's a difference between movement and music and fighting for performance of next ladder emphasize political means music not language as a preserve communication equals solidarity between proletariat world for revolution will then put to be the counter by music does not have the same equivalency as music could never be coalition and insight revolution nation it's overturn nation states by bourgeois elites with boundaries institutions laws and government to enforce material reality the nation states neither sexual contract nor imagine you need the way too complex for any local any cultural politics and the world is too complex for local politics multipolar global politics economics leading climate change that states a collective response that changes the structural conditions of power rather than tinkering around the margin strength and Williams 15 folk political diseases are the multiple levels of media and climate change the narrative make sense of our lives using complex in which operates on the scale of foreign and individuals person the cohorts whatever elements poverty laws which believe that resource second infrastructure market results into bigger needs and Illinois and arcing sector beliefs or that were due will never say experience directly black on cognitive macro process to economic system folk political induction and reduce complexity on human scale saturated calls for return authenticity where the use human scale to reduce complexity and reflects the truly prescribed what attempts to give human power which truly terrifying state just the folk political politics reduce the politics ethical individual struggle impaired to make it local politics media results and deep practices to maintain power than structuring change structural conditions with necessary abstraction of strategic thought tactics are fleeting gestures the absurdity of complexity of so many local case for markets any post-capitalist project will necessarily require new cognitive maps political narratives mechanisms of collective control and the impact is mass death and global violence part 13 Economic build on self-elegance, energy, Warner Rock isolation, food practicalities, goals, kitchen, but asking stream, taking out master, diets, we lost, I can be new something once to hide them 2 degrees, positive feedback, doesn't kick them, put in return, start thinking differently. Right now, the cause is capitalism, and the alt is pragmatic demands upon the state toward an anti-capitalist project that's necessary to open space for more radical projects. Their strategy sees political Harvey. 15, the problems refuse to see the product radical change remains refuse more fatal at space, match to visitors themselves on good answering how we build infrastructure. We need some organizations and empires, how to important CDC, how to respond to evidence to yourself, we can't confront warming through decentralization, confrontation, control, manipulation, ozone needed, organization left doesn't make the right next option. There has to be more pragmatic demands about the states for revolution outcomes, even compromise, all security, and open space where never organizing can take place. There has to be organized intent to politically change the system. Very clear project, problematic movements. There's a collective project. Danger. You tell people hope, and there will be no politics. Case. Vote negative on presumption, one-time violence in debate to the ballot is bad. A single ballot can't overcome bad practice in the debate space, and claiming that it does alleviates responsibility from actors who should be held accountable. Our argument is not that these things should never be talked about, but rather that time into the ballot is counterproductive, obfuscates a role for the negative. 2 should not vote ask simply because the one you see observe balance in the world without specifying methods for radical change and political mobilization. It reinscribes white liberals in water. 22. Brown regrets less ability to develop political vision. The revolution has to touch more political analysis, see the possibility of radical change, or something exceeds investment in political mobilization, which attracts ideals. Brand long actors from funding to new challenges result in impoverished left that operates with alternative, the more touching possibility, fruitfulness, melancholic attachment in short terms. Today, how many draw greatest sustenance, how is responsible and rejects melancholic attachments to defeats. 3, forwarding overarching theories removes responsibility for action, asking what policies we should change is key to solution-oriented politics holders. And 20, theoretically based prognostication is solar to all of peaceful achievements such as pale, and whether we review but honest access against totalized order world historical terms, becoming patient with patchwork solutions, intellectuals neglect local solutions with crises, we lose the war trees for the force, and then lose the force as well, replace large theories with local initiatives, take responsibility, tiny steps, ask what we should do if we achieve power, how would we set about doing so, offer laws we should try to promulgate, and the role of the ballot is to vote for the team that does the better debating, the role of the judge is to communicate that decision to the tab room, their role of the ballot is arbitrary and self-serving and links all the more toward topicality offense. And 1, they don't solve urgency. Nothing about the one you see as a competitive space key warrant for wide debate is uniquely necessary to challenge mass incarceration and book bans. There's no internal link between activism in here and legislative change out there that produces by recognition. 2, we have criticized epistemological disruptions as a form of reparations. They don't translate into mapped out politics. They can truly bring about redistributive politics. The ballot is certainly not a form of this, and treating it as such minimizes the magnitude of violence. 3, erasure DA is wrong. A genealogy of black history and nuclearism is compatible with both our model and their criticism, but it's not a warrant for their role of the ballot is preferable. The ballot is not a form of honoring because it does not change the trajectory of erasure out there, which is what their evidence is about. 4, treating racism as a personal flaw within the system of power advances racial capitalism. Ours. Senate 18, white people critical for white altruism is center ourselves out. It does not constitute a difference fully enough, fully accurate systematic racism, where Steve disaster don't lead to treat racism personal flaw rather than system powers vulnerable to white misconceptions without anchor being a global which power altruism is carried along by racial capitalism. They have the church what they own is altruism going to be basis for white anti-racist action. Only can solidarity find oneself alongside another. Only when white people can see the liberation matter with other achieve solidarity and have a basis for anti-racism and not produce colonial outcomes generated by altruism. People solidarity wants to mean universal rights, privilege, political guilty practice in action. Universal rights inspires actions. 5, the frame of Black History Month is antithetical to anti-racism. It cements guilt, dissuasion, and treats on Alexander 21. The black communities not deserve have entire shirts against in the shortest month of the year. Organizations goals focus on the same few figures in the past 6 years promoted comfort among our watch histories of eating what was the VH and was mental. I hope that people will recognize Black Americans that led an integral part of history. Educators are being the surface level does not keep them comfortable with schools teaching Black history. The need for BHM will falter, and extinctions require question under any moral framework. Basil 22 for trying to do a big wide range of moral theories, reducing extinction best possible objective goal so we can get a universally moral good. Utilitarian only cares about near sharing good, have work on parallel with most utilizing future, make sure all future happiness exists, future ethics, reducing existential no global deontologist con and credit we get people really live with some more conservative express flourishing can have a destroys the planet US, make sure that it doesn't go at sinks, make life more satisfying, intuition, human exchange is bad. Majority how that instinct religious group believe God can't have a nuclear winter as majority of moral philosophies think that preventing extinction is very good, and their theory of power is wrong. Zach and 18 construction of the reconstruction race society is legal, socio-economic and cultural components all of it taken together different combinations isolated makes the race the natural and then a level instead of humanity historically geographically contention resistance has change construction although any resistance unprecedented once because of nature is supported then do you look at the people to be effective humans or there's social institution thoughts and actions of other individuals and extinction outweighs bombing bear 18 some capacities are more than others so it may go see law future actions 500 relays which may be an address to the species of valuing JCS for anniversary kills for the time to framework site try 500 types for tape goal would have to be the same person's life side to make knowledge investments in GC reduction expensive virtually all other objectives are in the right to own views without finding strongest agreements with all the positions all human lives be valued equally lost of agent neutral objective view for nowhere available ignorance as a percentage of value everyone equally this in turn to this high value for reducing GCR and abolition fails evidence in 21 those appease movement talk of no use argue energy be ready to prohibition and another standpoint as far as ever been prohibition has been killed and no violence whatsoever permitting nuclear arms states no violence no will have banned for the foreseeable future for reasons of ideological law geopolitical psychological verification and the port of it.
Before I start, Holden, can you hear me? Thumbs.
If you want to unmute, can probably hear you better.
That makes sense.
And then I'll mute my volume.
Holden, can you hear me? That's vibes. Okay, cool. Are you good?
Yeah.
Status of the off?
Conditional status quo is always the logical option.
It's funny that you say that.
Wait, why?
model card, what example does it give for like a material example of jazz stopping organization or coalition building?
Like,
because card seems to be like it does not do anything, but it doesn't give like a historical example. So I'm like, where's the warrant?
I mean, I think you're right that it doesn't say like in this year when Jaws was done.
Well,
it
does it
stopped
give any
capitalism,
example?
But I don't think that it has to
What?
provide
Why
the
does it
argument.
not have to?
I don't understand why.
You don't understand why you should have a warrant?
No, like I don't
Like
think.
what?
Okay, there's a difference between an empiric and a warrant. Just because you don't have an empiric doesn't mean that you
Okay,
don't
well,
have
do
a
you
warrant.
have an empirical warrant?
Okay, I'm. Like,
No, that makes sense.
Do you need to provide
The
warrant
alternative
card?
pragmatic demands
there's
upon the
empirics
state.
for the app. What?
Okay. How does the alternative or how does the app see political?
Our argument is that you have to start by making state-based demands, which we don't think that the app does.
Why is okay? I guess the link to the nuclear energy dissad. How does civil defense fulfill the NPT obligation?
So the last answer to Cross-X established that when we get rid of the way that we conceptualize nuclear weapons and the nuclear education and infrastructure that goes behind them, it negates the need for nuclear weapons.
What's the timeline for the dissad?
Like, we think it happens pretty soon.
What? Pretty soon could be a lot of things.
Like,
What's pretty
within
soon?
the next couple of years.
Oh, next couple of years. Okay.
Probably within the next couple of months, even. I don't know.
Well, those are couple of years.
Like,
and
our
couple of
evidence
months
says that it would
it's
happen.
very broad.
Our
So
evidence
which
says
one
that
is
it would happen fast.
Where? Can you point me the line that says it would happen fast?
Nuclear fuel chain produces enormous. I mean, like, waste is something that
Okay,
would
so
be
you
produced.
started and you didn't have it, so you gave it up. Like, where
Like, are you
is it?
serious right now? Like, our evidence
Are you
says
serious
that
right
an
now?
initial
What?
consequence of the plan would be
Well,
an
I'm
expansion
asking
of
for a
nuclear
timeline,
energy.
and your answer was like it happens in years, then it happens in months, and I was like, okay, where's the line? You're like, oh, it's here, and like, oh,
Like,
actually,
it
never
says-
mind, it's not
well,
here.
Because
Like,
I was
what?
trying to answer a separate part
That's
of the
fine.
question that you asked.
My
Like, our evidence
next,
says it happens soon. It
that's
doesn't
cool.
say it happens
Thank you,
on June
Grace.
20th
Thank you,
of
Grace.
next year.
That's cool.
You're right.
Thank you, Grace. My next question: how do you think the 1NC has honored Black History Month?
Well, we think that we have presented an advantage counter plan that is something that would be beneficial pursuant to the 1AC's frame under Black History
Okay,
Month. We
why
also
is that
think
mutually
topical debate-
exclusive with the demands that the 1AC made?
Because the 1AC
Or actually,
demands.
do you think that like the app has informed like these type of like demands or like the planks on the advantage counter plan at all?
Yes, we draw from 1AC evidence to substantiate the advantage counterplay
Okay,
links, and it's
cool.
mutually exclusive with the AF because
Why?
it does not do anything to disentangle the nuclear infrastructure.
That doesn't sound
you
like
say
a
that you
net
do.
benefit. That sounds like you did not do this. Sounds
Well,
like
we've read a
different
link to
mission.
you doing that. The
What's
advantage
the
counterplay
link?
plan avoids
You mean you mean like the link for the time frame you couldn't give?
for the nuclear energy DA.
For the time frame you couldn't give. Cool. I think that's all my
I
questions.
said that it would
like
happen very soon.
very soon, years, months.
You're right. It doesn't say November 30th, my birthday of this year. No.
On your birthday, it'd be pretty around like a month or
Okay.
more.
I know.
10
You want the
minutes.
world to end on that day. Oh, just so you know, Curtis, you're unmuted.
Ooh, bet.
Just
Thank
in
you.
case, yeah.
Sure.
Uh, 904. I stopped prep at 904. Let me type that in.
Oh my, I just seen this message. My bad. I totally did not add you on the chain, dude. I'm sorry. Apologies.
267.
He's in the folder.
Order is order is case, the advantage counterplan, nuclear energy disad, the K, and then framework. Cool. Yeah, so I'll hold and give a thumbs up. So just give me a second to like get the document right. Okay. Holden, you said you were good. Emory, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Curtis, you good.
Civil defense marks black communities as disposable through segregation, slavery, mass incarceration, etc. to create wide impacts of extinction that creates the conditions for nuclear weapons and slow violence. And when he sees atomic affirmation disarms us by refusing to engage in civil defense laws and imagining a future where black communities are invested into bearing witness to the when he sees method makes it more likely to engage in activism once we leave the states. That's when he sees J. Trump Del Sol and backing up that answers the presumption, the line presumption first. If the method is good to challenge violence, and that is good. Second, Afrofuturism is a specific method that will be on the CACB, which answers the voters' evidence. 3, we've done both theory and action, which means there's no link to the coercive evidence, which means move on to the BHM argument. Framing issue, it is Black History Month. If the one is did not honor black voices and present a competing liberatory method, then they have not met at the burden of rejoining in this particular moment. You should prefer our interpretation. 1, urgency. Texas engages in academic book bans and police brutality, which means black people are being erased epistemically and physically. A role of the battle is necessary to use this space for resistance strategy. Debate is necessary. The community erases black voices, which will be on framework, which means it's about our orientations in this space. 2nd, black anti-nuclear activists are nowhere seen in this topic. People like Ernest Wilkins, Edwin R. Russell, Monty Taylor, Gardner Fermi, Reed Quarterman, Knox Delaney, etc. are left to the wayside. And when it sees performative decision to not honor any black nuclear voices is an independent reason to reject the team because they have replicated erasure. The ballot does change the way we engage in here, which will also be on framework. 3, any fairness argument here on framework is impact. You should embrace acts of black unfairness to celebrate black voices as a form of reparations. The Jackson evidence says these disruptive acts challenge white supremacy and the racialized deployment of framework, which when drought violation, they have not met their burden. But I will preempt some arguments first. The idea, if they read any black authors, it's a form of tokenism that didn't honor their lives. Explain why you chose them or what methods of black liberation that offered. The white assuasion, as per the Myers evidence, it is good and make sure that white people at least do the bare minimum in this space, but only we can force white people to continuously rethink their position over time, which refines it over time, which answers their argument and acts as a link to the extinction argument. Extinction is anti-black. It is the universalizing discourse that censors white life over black life because it's colorblind rhetoric that ignores that white people will survive the apocalypse due to residential segregation, but black people will be forced to fend for themselves. The Bagnova evidence assumes every single extinction good card they've read, which means they're already behind on this debate. The Zach evidence, only Afrofuturism can change racial consciousness. That will be on the CAPK. Abolition fails. First, there is no link. We are not the TPNW, which is what the evidence is about. But second, link turn. Afrofuturism is critical to building solidarity via the Austin Coalition, which resolves the buy-in arguments. Next, there is no impact uniqueness for why abolition is bad, which means no new one-hour arguments, completely new and setbacks of 1 hour, which is a reason to reject the team for pedagogical integrity. Advantage counterplan. 1, perm do vote. 2nd, perm do the affirmative. 3, it links to the net benefit. 4, there is no net benefit. 5, we some people decide investing in the idea that the U.S. would do something for black people is a form of cruel optimism because it is not in line with history. 6, it does not solve the affirmative. It does not challenge the civil defense logic in this space and does not challenge nuclear or weapons. Universal housing would still be in the realm of residential segregation and fails due to NIMBY politics. Minimum wage fails because it does not resolve the issue that black people have been robbed of wealth, not income. 7, making your ethical commitments to the liberation of people of color fungible is the voting issue. Makes it disconnected. Activism puts black people to the back burner. Vote them down for our pedagogical integrity. The nuclear energy disad. 1, case outweighs civil defenses and apocalyptic force that justifies gratuitous violence on blackness in order to secure white future. The generations of life lost in the Atlantic, destabilizing conditions of systemic racism, and the death of blackness that nuclear weapons requires outweighs the disad on a metaphysical level beyond traditional impact calculus. 2nd, no link. Their first evidence just says that non-nuclear weapon states are mad that nuclear weapon states are not disarming nukes. There's no sentence that says more disarm would equal more spreading nuclear energy. Do not do the work of assuming for them because it is just not there. Or 3rd, no link. We have not disarmed nukes. We have disarmed the civil defense logic behind them. 4, turn upholding the status quo makes proliferation around the world more likely. Their own evidence says non-nuclear weapon states are mad that nuclear weapon states aren't disarming, which is what motivates countries like North Korea to back out the NPT and India to not be part of it at all. Next, proliferation is discursively produced and self-fulfilling. Ritchie, 19, the power to shape if action nuclear ordinance of different nuclear is practical and responsible proliferation as the psychological depends on these things maintained because rogues might acquire them justify children's defense of fight World War III nuclearism has been normalized security in ways that leads to consequences of actual use proliferation and justifies disciplinary control, ignoring deproliferation and proliferation reflects Western exceptional and naturalized symbolic power. Next, in order for them to win this, they said they have to justify the status quo, which means atomic genocide. Just said Afrofuturism imagines the world in which there is no need to use weapons, which takes out their impact scenario. Michi says that the desire to hold on to weapons is because we envision the attacks of a racialized other on the homeland, which uses racism into the bomb. It itself by entangling our human instincts to the desire to use the bomb, making conflict inevitable. That's Hurley. The app disarms the civil defense logic by refusing to participate in it in favor of black futures. Next, any offense here means we impact turn normal debate. Civil defense is a logic that permeates in educational spaces and militarizes the mind to save yourself first before black people. That's the Preston. No, that's the Preston OA evidence. Next, nuclear deterrence is an unethical white supremacist sacrificial logic. Night 23. The Vietnam War is better than World War III. Humans and less than deemed worth sacrificing to maintain a possible security for those with nukes. When compared with the argument that proxy wars prove nuclear weapons are not permitted peace, these people bombed up on teaching and deterrence hidden behind mere superiority robots like supremacy reducing lives to numbers. Nuclear superior gets a lot of success and deterrence while innocent lives to Vietnam, Korea, and Afghanistan are lost. And then the proxy wars and story. The critique 1. The Hill evidence text says you should not deny the importance of identity. Afrofuturism requires it, and it is black history. With second link turns to the nuclear jazz link. We have emphasized demands from the Austin Coalition like fighting justification. 3. Link turn to the Williams evidence bearing witness to anti-blackness and civil defense catalyzes movements. It was a precursor to civil rights increase resistance to lynching in the South. That's 1 Del Sol and J. Trump. 4. Zero demand, zero organization, zero solvency for the alternative. Next, perm to both. Afrofuturism is a necessary performance to mobilize the energy towards building black futures. The all can filter that energy through political demands as for the Harvey evidence. Second, perm to the app. Afrofuturism builds that power. 3. Yes, perms and the method-based synthesis is good because it innovates advocacy and uncovers forgotten black histories that is not possible to be all alone. Next, not defending a specific organization as a voter makes negative articulation to block impossible to predict and lets them spike out of twisty offense, causing striking and terrible debates since the negative can just switch out organizations every debate. The standard is pedagogical integrity. Next, making your ethical commitments to the liberation of people of color from capitalism condition as a voter, fungibilize their suffering for a ballot, which reproduces the logical disposability that consigns black and brown people to death. Spaces that magnify civil defense pedagogy and changes to be liberal individualists. That's 1 EC. That's the 1 EC evidence. Next, universalizing discourse. They said climate change is an existential threat as opposed to already here in the form of segregation, nuclear facilities, lack of access to clean water puts anti-blackness to the backdrop of an organized struggle on anti-black foundations. You can also cross-apply any diss that I read on the actual diss onto the critique because they rely on the same epistemic foundations. Go to framework now. 1. Counter definition. Subpoint A. Impact turn United States. We some people challenges white exclusion. James 17. The virtual card is not a contributing ever good the USFGS. We some people as opposed to we the people challenge the white. No order agenda. We the people remote. Subpoint B. Disarm means to abolish American heritage. No. Day 2. Abolish armed forces. Next there. Definitions are over limiting racist in-depth debates in the literature over particular weapons and crowds out substance violating the negative get away with generic deterrence that's against disarm as which turn all of their terminal impacts to clash. Subpoint C. Nuclear forces include infrastructure and communication. Cornell law. No day nuclear include nuclear weapons over power systems, nuclear command control and communication infrastructure and facilities including personal culture operation and maintenance. Next, forces can include discourse. Richie 23. Discourse define nuclear weapons or cultural artifacts which are meaningful forces, social, economic, and cultural, also which produce them. Next, we meet that interpretation on 2 levels. 1. Civil defense is nuclear communication. That's the Preston OA evidence. Second is that infrastructure includes civil defense. Hurley 20 apocalypse to force nuclear mundi and life extending archive of authors against them. MIC within communities most vulnerable to infrastructure violence. Following critique of civil defense, civil analysis of waste as a weapon. Next, we meet that because we some people disarm the nuclear force of civil defense, which means we abolish civil defense discourse that racialize the use of nuclear weapons and imagine a world where we refuse the infrastructural disinvestment of black futures. Second, extend the counter model. Affirmatives should engage the resolution through radical state support, which means affirming the restriction of U.S. nuclear forces through a critical perspective. This includes abolition that irradiate international Afrofuturism, post-colonial revolt, and excludes apps that don't restrict nuclear forces, i.e. Harvard OG's app, Iowa's app, Kansas nuclear family app, etc. Prefer 1. Limits teams that don't defend a reduction of nuclearism can still lose to T and confines apps to be tied down to the core topic, which allows for negative generics. Prefer reasonability. There is no way to quantify it, and good is good enough, but over limiting is worse because it crowds out subaltern anti-nuclear advocacy that will lose to the perm on the negative and whitewash the topic, which links back to the Black History Month procedure that we did on case. Next, extend the net benefits. Subpoint A. Epistemological growth. Teams uncover forgotten histories under the nuclear code and can learn to carve out counterpolitics and debates and make this space safer for marginalized communities, i.e. Emporia, Towson, and Louisville all prove. Subpoint B. Activism debate becomes a training ground for futures such as Towson CL creating leaders for a beautiful struggle, Phillips and MM starting up immigration law firms, etc. and performing and spilling out. That's 1 AC Del Sol 23. The fairness argument. 1. Colorblindness. This type procedural fairness and limits are standards that always break debates in favor of white upper class because our definition for what is fair could only be created by those who had access to define it in the first place. 2. Civil defense. This had the fear that chaos ruined the activity is the future when the fear of styles of debate coded as black. Afrofuturism demands that you recognize the linkages between conservative right-wing backlash to PRL and the use of framework as infrastructures of violent racist discerns that demonize the ability for historically working class minority debates to envision new futures of debate for themselves. 1 EC Hurley, Preston, and Amichis argue that when this nuclear pedagogy is taught in the classroom, it gets exported to create racially exclusive spaces in times of crisis and produces academic discussions that always seek to reformulate nuclear posture at the expense of black life. 2 NC will try to say that the origins of framework are not racist because they emerged or as a response to white poet teams. We should understand and their defense of fairness as how it is weaponizing the status quo now, i.e. the weaponization of it against black debaters. The clash arguments. 1. Hegemonic anti-nuclearism. This had their division of ground results in this had counterblind debates that happen on the same hegemonic terrain. NFU versus deterrence. This has sole purpose counterblind. Still promote the U.S. over people of color and the oversaturation of top-down articles cause the game to be rigged in favor of traditional arguments that make winning the critique an uphill battle. Us as students debating nuclear discussions from that perspective only replicates the same logic of the nuclear industrial complex that produces its violence across the world. Next, you can cross-apply the universal humanity disset and the atomic genocide disset that I made on the disset and the capcade because they both act as epistemic dissets to their model of debate that only our counter model resolves.
Okay. Then unmute. Are you good for cross-ex?
Yeah.
My first question is, what was the last voter on case? I saw the impact was pedagogical integrity, but what was the link or the violation on case?
The violation was probably the one about how you have not met the burden of honoring black voices.
Okay, so there wasn't any other voter on case.
I think it was like a preemption stuff about how it's like if you just say like, well, we read black authors in the one, it's a form of tokenism.
Okay, got it. So it was an impact of that. That makes sense.
There was no reasonability argument on T, right?
Yeah, there was.
Where? Sorry. Right. Can you just tell me the two arguments that was in between?
It was reasonability on the limits argument. Prefer reasonability on the limits we approach to the topic because anything else would cause a whitewashing of the topic.
Okay, got it.
The DA, the argument that you imagine a world with no weapons. Do you imagine a world where other countries give up weapons as well?
I think that Afrofuturism would act as like the internal link to creating a form of internationalism that makes it so that the need for proliferation doesn't happen.
Can you walk me through how it creates internationalism? Like, what does it mean for the U.S.? Like, you imagine a world where in the U.S. this our focus on nuclear weapons is no longer like throughout the U.S. But how does that get to other countries?
Curtis, didn't you cut like a card?
Yeah. I don't know if I'll read the card because, like, you know, y'all are fast and shit. But the historical examples that Pan-Africanism has had on the effect of anti-nuclear activism is very important. For example, there were civil rights leaders that went to the Sahara to be able to try and, like, infiltrate the testing that French people were doing in Africa. The movement failed, but it sparked a larger transnational Pan-Africanism movement that led to lots of the creation of anti-nuclear movements now, which is how it shows how like the AF has created those internal links between international solidarity to have like a material spill of claim to like engage anti-nuclear activism that raises the need for nukes in the first place. Okay, got it. And then other countries get rid of nukes. That makes sense. The case argument about refusing to engage in defense logics makes it more likely people engage in activism outside of this space. Why is that true? Like, what's the one-to-one? Refusing to engage in the topic means that we're all going to be activists outside the space.
The 1AC Del Sol and Dracham evidence gives the examples of when people bared witness to things like nuclear jazz in the South as a response to lynchings, or when, for example, a form of Afrofuturism in which we circulated black press. I believe it gives the example of Mamie Till Mobley's open casket funeral of Emmett Till. What happened was that it served as a precursor to things like the civil rights movement, because bearing witness to anti-blackness and the forms of violence that like it takes created the things like empathy, passion.
The Richie
Which kind of
card,
like turns to like white liberalism.
Okay, got it. The Richie card about prolif discourse says that it's bad because it promotes Western exceptionalism. If the DA says that Western countries getting more nukes is bad, why is it linked to this argument?
Because it says that proliferationism is a discourse that still increases dependence on nuclear weapons, and it would be better to.
Wait, why? Because it says that we should have less.
What's up?
If it says we should have less weapons, why does it increase dependence?
Because the status quo is one where the U.S. polices others about like who should have a nuclear weapon and who shouldn't, and we think that's bad.
10.
Maybe just charge it. I made the document.
Wait, and then the perms, the first two perms on the counterplay were perm do both, and then was it we some people?
Perm do both, perm do the app.
Got it.
$8.40. There is one card. I will be sending that out promptly. Card that has been sent out many times. press this? Hold on, let me know if you're here. Cool. Good for an order. It's just gonna be T then case.
And you said there's a card, right?
Yeah, I set it up.
This goddamn card. You said T in the case?
Yep.
Give me 1 second.
Take your time. You're good.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, y'all are both good?
Yeah.
Holden, you're good? Okay, I'll start in like 10 seconds. Whoa, okay. Top class, Buster the United States nuclear forces are impacts outweigh one classification matters. Most other reasons the activities liable can be garnered from other venues, which means that clash has to come first. The opportunity cost of sacrificing it is always inherently higher than anything else. A predictable 60-point grounding the resolution is key for new off debates on both sides, where teams develop law research centers to debate the best wishes of their opponents and cultivate tactics of argumentation that teach debaters to hypothesize, sort through evidence, assess their validity, and then develop third and fourth line responses, which makes us better arguers and researchers regardless of what we advocate for. Second, fairness. Competition is inevitable and good to actually say benefits any model to both teams must be prepared to engage each other, which makes it a prerequisite their inter which stretches the negative treason makes it impossible to predict the winning seed, which creates a moral hazard where the app runs to the margins of the topic and the negative is behind from the get-go. It encourages half conditionality, creates a massive outside bias, which often takes the role for the negative ballot. Cannot resolve their office, but can resolve procedural unfairness. Topicality is not a referendum on the introduction of their argument, but rather a win condition. You can agree with the winning seed, but still vote negative. Now, their counter definitions first. The United States is collective action by the federal government. That's the evidence. We, some people, does not challenge whiteness. There's no warning their evidence for why that is the case, but it certainly explodes limits because just as private actor fiat government can break an NGO, F calories. The dancers against nukes have any movement or groups of people that, or even individuals become topical. Second is disarm. It means to get rid of all nuclear weapons. That's the cliff evidence. The topic where the app could abolish any armed force links to our limits. Offense Northwestern reading it out that abolishes SROs. Or reading it out from the high school 2018 education topic. Michigan breaking the disarm NRA with the guns bad advantage that is unnegatable. Asking abolish the police, Navy, Army, Marines, etc. It's not over limiting that was above, but over limiting outweighs under limiting. Our interpret is not generic deterrence to but high specific disagreements with the process and product of disarmament. Having a diss to say is important for the negative, which they eliminate. Third is resolved and implies established by law. That's words and phrases. Third, fourth should it modifies restrict nuclear forces in the resolution, which one see DeRosa says can only be done by Congress. Fifth, nuclear forces. It refers to the delivery platforms like bombers, ballistic missiles, weapons like ICBMs, and subs as well as command and control. That's one see Roberts. They do not meet their Cornell evidence because it says that the app must modify nuclear forces governed by the NSA and the DoD. Nothing about discourse does that they must abolish all of those who meet their interpretation. Forces specifically does not include discourse. To see Richie is about nuclear weapons, not forces, and just as they derive meaning from political context. That's not a definition. Just a statement that the purpose of nukes varies. Describing any discourse is topical obviously explodes limits because the threshold for a topical one is a metaphor. Michigan analogizes nukes to healthcare and recycles the 2018 topic. Dartmouth says that nukes are anti-competitive and brings back antitrust, which is bad. Counterintuitive radical stasis links to our offense. One, there's no bright line. What does radical implementation mean? Each person has a different threshold for what it is not. Is not radical. Disarmament will be radical for the DoD, just like abolishing civil defense would be radical, or a feasible goal for protesters. It is inherently subjective, meaning that topic is limitless because all the one needs to do is find a one-liner justification for why their app is radical and easy. Even the status quo is pro-nuke. Second, any attempt to define radical is a double term with their offense because it limits out alternate visions of radicality. Third, they don't solve limits. Teams defending nuclearism will not lose to T because there's no stable limiting definition of what it means to reduce nuclearism. How do you know that Wake meets your app but Harvard doesn't? When we debated them, they said they don't respond, which proves that their interpretation is inherently arbitrary. Now, reasonability did not catch it, but I'll answer it anyway. One, they're not reasonable. Those are offensive. Second, reasonability is about model and intervention, which creates a slippery slope because anything can be construed as reasonable. Can be in terms are much better in terms that we have debate. The yield debates potential value. Third, over limiting is not a form of whitewashing. Their interest expose limits, which also crowds out the ability to meaningfully engage with the content that they say is important. That turns burnout because an unlimited topic forces black and brown debaters to engage in the labor of prepping capitalists of what is that you get deterrence to sad arguments. There are zero weapons DAs under their model. Apps must prep one reason for why one aspect of the police or militarization is bad, but the negative must have a defense of every single one to be back against all apps, which is an untenable burden. The safer for marginalized debaters argument does not have a warrant attached to it, and there's zero reason for why teams under their model would also not proliferate hedge good and cap good because when faced with an unlimited counterinterpret is a core generic that they turn to. It's a KVK debates argument is wrong. The link to KVK debate activism is unbeatable. One of the best K debates you've ever judged are those where links are specific and the clash was robust in the diversion of the topic. There's no prep K links. The great in-depth considerations that are different methods to ways will choose to run to the marches of what is included to no link or right unbeatable permutation. Second, our model solves better reform. K debates are better because they better simulate real world opposition, but theirs encourages teams to return towards large impact terms like hedge good, which are violent. They've just listed individual instances of debates, not the overall schema that they would endorse. If epistemological growth arguments are wrong, the step benefit is wrong. They must beat subjectivity defense to win this clash also turns it via rigorous testing. They have listed examples of debaters that have left debate and gone on to be activists but are not explained as causal connection for why debate is key for these, but debate is a bad side for activists and one truth testing debate is a bad side because the arguments that win debates are not necessarily true. Balance do not correlate with truth, otherwise spark would not win a single debate. The technical prowess of debaters matters far more than the truth behind their arguments. Their model attaches truth to debaters and balance, which massively increases the risk that those bad strategies are exported, whereas good ones are discarded. Second is trade-off. Their model forces debaters to invest their time and labor in an activity whose connection to activism is extremely tenuous. Joining an activist group is much less burdensome, yet much more rewarding avenue for activism. But the trade-off, their model locks in dissuades truly radical activism in favor of faux balance, signaling the correct politics to be palatable for white judges. There's no activism that benefit the content of round 4 at the Texas tournament does not shape our subjectivity and makes us more likely to be activists. Nobody leaves this round thinking that abolition is a good idea or topicality is the truth, and there's much larger odd causes like school, family, and friends that dump. 2 filters. 1. Switching sides. Debates force us to negate what we affirm when we read. In one debate, we negate the very next debate. This means that there's no individual translating to opinion. Second, fairness in clash turns if the process far outweighs the content of debates. When we are in a round, what drives decision making is not an unflinching commitment to the truth of our arguments, but rather the desire to deploy and research to win. Third, their offense is about out of round, which is important. Conversations in the squadron we're talking about debate with friends is vastly different than the subjective formation in the individual round. 4, their model cannot solve the subjectivity because they cannot change the competitive incentives that overdetermine debate. And if they do win, that we have recut all these cards from the 1AC, which most definitely conclude that an NFU is a good step in the right direction. Now, the colorblindness is that we are straight turning. Nothing about fairness is inherently colorblind. 1, their model destroys minority participation because the burden of preparation is untenable. Competitive equity is the largest internal link to keep schools in the game. Second, the ballot especially cannot solve this. Nothing about a ballot for Long Beach makes participation more likely. Simply put, most people outside the maybe 500 debaters and coaches involved in the college circuit do not care. We get constantly confused on campus. From mock trial on model, you and explaining tab room to inheritance is a nightmare, and we all go back after this tournament to friends who have no idea what we do. The premise that this activity, let alone this individual debate, contains the capacity to make meaningful changes actually zero. It links way harder to their offense because the belief that it does is cruelly optimistic and actively stifles energies on the ground. The civil defense has had framework, fairness, and procedurals are now weaponizations or violent impositions and not a form of demonization. It does not export racism. 1, this argument is ahistorical. Our argument is not that the origin was not racist, but that T has previously been read against white POMA teams to preserve a role for negative engagement, which disproves that T is inherently something that is always white. Its previous violent forms do not mean that every time T is read it is violent, and it most certainly does not mean that we have read T in this individual debate is racist. Second, none of their examples are intrinsic to our reading of T, proven by the fact that we regularly go for T against policy teams. Any attempt to differentiate framework from T against policy apps or white POMA teams bolsters our no-link argument because framework has also evolved over time to engage the app's offense through a topical version and switch side or explanations of clash that used to be no case but are now about strategy building. Third, the threshold for winning this is extremely high because they must win how the utterance of topicality in this individual debate somehow carries within the entire legacy and entirety of T's exclusionary past. They counterplan DA bad. The next argument is counterplan DA debates are bad. Not true. It's not our vision of debate. 1, the nature of switch side mandates a critique of hegemonic nuclearism, which proves that they can read it on the negative because it gets to the heart of why the state exists in the context of nukes. Second, process debates are good nitty-gritty details of stakeholder decision making in nuclear policy teaches us to navigate complex field with accuracy and holds governmental actors like Lockheed accountable. Third, topical version solves. Their author says that an NFU is necessary to solve short-term nuclear. 1, redefine the justifications for nuclear weapons. The negative could respond with a K that D says decreasing nuclear militarization increases conventional militarization. Richie and 14 steps more pragmatic to return for the end goal NFU. We're going to put forth nuclear weapons and missile nuclear warfare called nuclear dispersal in the turn. Nuclear weapons for as you know, because the eliminated goal calls for dealing with nuclear weapons and be partisans of the military role. 4, this evidence is the answer to the permutation and reducts incrementalism in favor of all or nothing model of political engagement, which the perm disavows. 5, our model solves their offensive the right about their position. Reading it on the negative will produce wins that culminate in a collective acceptance of it as a good form of politics. Now, the universal humanity design was just super flippy in the 2AC and not well explained in the context of topicality. Nothing about our model is extinction scenarios over and over again. They must not only win subjectivity, but also that people will not read those arguments under 1AC under their model debate, which still valorizes universal humanity. The topical version disproves this because debates do not need to be about large-scale extinction impacts, but the ways in which nukes are intertwined with the legacy of colonialism. This also answers the atomic genocide design, which is also shadow extended. Nothing about our model inculcates threat construction or the skill of policing switching sides, breaks down dogmatic biases. The resolution is in the opposite direction in which they have described all this offense. Case. Vote negative on presumption. The 2AC blows it off, and we have read 3 cards on it in the 1AC, which means there's no new 1AR re-articulation. Nothing the 1AC can do. It can change the bomb of anti-blackness, and they have not proposed what their future looks like to challenge slow violence. How does alignment in here translate to galvanizing movements out there, and what new future does the 1AC affirm? The only 1AC crossings was that they inserted a new narrative, but how does that change movements? How does the reading a 1AC on Zoom do anything to change the material work of the Austin Justice Coalition? What new strategies does the app produce? These are important questions that require answers until which you cannot vote affirmative because 1AC quick says that the solution-oriented politics matters is turns their offense on every argument of the 2AC because all of those require strategy building and pedagogy, but it's impossible to garner those until they answer those immediate questions. Bearing witness does not meet this threshold. The downfall evidence is about journalism and moments like funerals in the context of civil rights movements, which is vastly different from the 1AC and certainly not about debate space. Presumption is not racist. It is a criticism of their argument that they should not propose a solution, not a reason to protect the team. It also requires them winning the team that our model is not violence. Now, the Black History Month framing arguments are wrong. The role of the ballot is to vote for the team that did a better debating. The role of the judge is to communicate the decision to happen. We have a response to every 1AC subpoint in the 1AC, which the 2AC does not respond to. They just extend their blocks. 1, debate in their model cannot solve urgency or erasure. What about their model reverses the critical race theory ban or meets all of a sudden people only focus on strategies for black liberation. All of our offense on topicality turns this, but there's certainly not only between activism and here and change out there, but they get trapped within the circulation of academia. T proves that their model crowds out discussions. Black nuclear activists left to the wayside is not something their model can solve. Making the debate about black liberation strategy does not mean that teams research the history of black individuals, and they certainly have not gone through every single author in the 1C to see if they are or are not black. It is not tokenism, but rather a critique that they're honoring. Something in debate is something that even has the capacity to rectify racism. It means educators stay superficial in their relationality to black history rather than a genuine intention to unravel their investment, which is worse for tokenism. That's the 1C Alexander evidence dropped by the 2AC. Third, we disagree with the logic of reparations in debate, which just proves their T impact or epistemological disruptions do not equate to that, and voting for their disruption certainly does not translate to reparations. Our Myerson evidence indicates that it's a form of white guilt situation where white judges pat themselves on the back and move on, not actually pursuing anti-racist politics out there. It also treats racism as an individual flaw, rectifiable individually rather than structural. I'm good.
You're good.
Yep. Oh, let me turn off my volume. Yep.
Okay. This stuff about like join an activist group. Can you just explain that?
Yeah. So let me just pull that up really quickly to make sure I'm like explaining it correctly. But our argument is just that the idea that debate is like a unique site for activism is something that we have essentially criticized because we've said that the internal link between debate and activism is something that is extremely tenuous.
So it's like I have this thing across both flows. So it's like this stuff, you know, debate's not a good site for activism.
Yeah.
Then you have no subjectivity shift.
Yeah. And
then on Black History Month, you're just like debate should not be the site to try and censor like Black history. So it's like, what do you think debate should be?
Well, we just think that thinking of debate and attaching to individual ballots that idea of particular activist strategies is bad. Like, we have said that debate is a good site for process-based clash and fairness.
Okay, why are those things good?
Like, process-based clash is good because over however many years we're in debate, you know, we're fairly content agnostic, but the process of clash is one that makes us better arguers and researchers.
Wait, hold on. You said content agnostic?
Yeah.
Okay. Traditional debates under your model, what do they look like? I see NFU.
Yeah.
And then what does the negative read?
Yeah, so I think the way that we explained it was that the negative could say that the plan causes a nuclear drawdown, which would be bolstering our conventional deterrence that would be bad for a multiplicity of reasons.
Okay, so it's like the Ritchie 22 evidence that talks about this, the hegemonic anti-nuclearism, describes this exact scenario and how usually because we censor like USFG written articles, that causes like critiques of racial capitalism to be left to the wayside. How does your model account for that?
Well, the Ritchie evidence in and of itself says that essential step in the right direction would be NFU, and that can be coupled with a deep devaluation of nuclear weapons.
Okay,
so
it's like
literature
you're
basically
like
said is left to the wayside is something that can be incorporated with
No, but it's like that NFU. Okay, that Ritchie evidence that you're reading is like 9 years old, right? Our Ritchie evidence is an update to this.
We disagree that whatever Ritchie has said then and now is something that is so incompatible. We think that those theories are certainly in line.
Back to the debate, no subjectivity shift.
Yeah.
How do you explain the differences between like judges who go on their paradigm are just like, I think debates are best when topical debates have a plan, and then other judges that say other things? Like, how do you
so like maybe certain judges have coached certain arguments, maybe they're hired for a particular school to work on a certain set of arguments.
Okay,
that
but
it's
like you don't think those preferences have any racialized aspects to them like at all?
Those preferences they could have racialized aspects to them, but they're certainly not a reflection of round 4 of the Texas tournament.
Okay, I'm not talking about rounds. Like I don't know why. No. My thing is like I don't know why you always make these debates about individual rounds, because the Smith evidence is not individual rounds. It's about debates over the course of a season and the types of content that we promote in it.
Well,
so it's like my question is that it's like over the course of the history of framework and your types of debate, there have been racialized instances that have excluded black and brown debaters.
But we have disagreed with
what does hold on. I have 7 seconds. I have 7 seconds left. Never mind.
Yeah, you had 2.
The one in ours. If everyone's good for an order, it's the advantage counter plan, the K, and then the DA. Does anyone need that again?
No.
Everyone good?
Maybe just a second.
Okay.
I'm getting the document.
Okay, yep, no rush. the entire case for the benefit of nuclear energy DA, the currently engaged in a host of effective measures to address the housing crisis, gentrification, while aligning with the Black Liberatory goals. When I see is that a good permutation of both important BDF linked to the benefit of the storm bad. The one I see push towards nuclear abolition, intensive dissensible use nuclear superiority, which enables nuclear energy spread, does not link to the benefit, does not touch the nuclear arsenal. The F definitely does per both cross sexes. Some people, cruel optimism. DA does not link to counterblame fields governmental action, which is good for debate and doesn't mean we think the government will actually do anything, but this links to them because if it's true, this would never promote fair housing. That's presumption. The counterblame does solve the active events logics aren't key to internalizing the unpacked state bread one and suburbs in terms of public land developments. That means communities will have access to homes only able to decide for themselves what happens to their communities. Private land development steers their ability to solve that solves their evidence describes the zones as sacrifice secured by the bomb and white flight to the suburbs as reasons why the housing crisis is covered by the government eliminates those zones. 2, it increases the minimum wage and provides universal housing. Their evidence says that high unemployment and poor housing bonds that are dropped every day. Conditionality is good when logic. The only role of negatives disprove the one I see, disprove the counterpoint does not prove the plan is good. Their contrived interpretation kills education and predictability, which turns their offense to flux and next reactor for truths. We turn argument innovation only condo overcomes the research and prep deficit. It's too easy being outside by a fake plan, zero burn for case. Explanation means they can leverage when you see interlinks on any influence being king first and last solves free, no link to their offense. Our commitment to others is not conditional because we don't think that strategically we should have to extend the K or the counterplan and the 2 and R4 reasonability. If they win across play here, we only read 2 conditional advocacies. The K concede the power just as accommodation and overpowered under their model debate. There's no offense. They haven't explained how the app resulted in overthrow of capitalism or effective state behaviors to reforms. I'll answer the universal discourse argument about the impact on the DA. Any new cross applications or recontextualizations that justify new 2 and R responses. Not specifying an organization is a reason to reject the argument, not the team we describe. The alt and cross X, if they were to ask about it, it's about say action on one particular organization. Fungibility argument was answered on the counterplan. Reject the argument, not the team. The nuclear energy DA. The DA outweighs and massively turns the case when he sees commitment to disarm the U.S. of its nukes, revitalizes global nuclear regimes such as the MET, which facilitates the mass transfer and export of nuclear energy materials and tech. 2 impacts. First is radioactive colonialism dropped by the 2AC. Nuclear energy is inextricably linked to violence against indigenous communities in the U.S., India, Australia, Canada, and others via uranium mining that reifies extractivist logic which have detrimental health effects from radiation, storage, leaks, and intergenerational justice. That's 1C. Hopkins, second is prolif. 1C. Furman is the most robust statistical analysis today includes revitalizing the frank MPT's significant variable in proliferation of nuclear weapons because it offers a legal cover for tech and expertise transfer to countries, which repurposes it for nukes that locks in global nuclear wars. As countries rearm and face use or lose pressures, 3 it turns 1C solvency even if their movement can disarm weapons with TLOS ends theirs. Proliferation radioactive colonialism through activist energy making it impossible to mobilize against the totality of the 1C's impacts. 4th case does not outweigh their theory of power is wrong. 2AC does not have an on-point response to ZAC, racial hierarchies, or socially constructed malleable. It's not natural and a novel or a feature of the state. And next is the no-link argument. Strong MPT makes global nuclear energy 100% when CW and indicates it would result in calls for internationalization of nuclear energies as dismantled weapon materials would be repurposed domestically and exported globally along with tech and expertise. It's a construction of nuclear energy plants and non-prolific efforts are key to nuclear energy. W and 22 MPT provides security of non-nuclear states to encourage cooperation in nuclear energy and represent 20 industry associations organized letters for MPT quarters of industries articles Article 4 says outright to use of nuclear energy and industry recognize MPT provide unpinning framework universal access to nuclear tech from movement to IEA. The 1AC results in nuclear reductions. 1 entanglement disarming the civil defense pedagogy requires disarming nuclear weapons. Michi's evidence indicates that white civil defense pedagogy permeates every component of nuclear weapons, and that was when you see cross X the offer removes justifications that upholds those who necessarily entails doing away with their weapons. When you see Michi's evidence agrees, we've inserted their evidence as blue to strategies. Ricci calls clearly for nuclear disarmament and says that politics they galvanize result in it. We've inserted that in blue. 3 movements, the ones where Hurley evidence endorses, are specifically geared towards nuclear disarmament. 4 metaphors, the DA is an impact term of the one sees connection between nuclear forces and civil defense. When Kimball indicates any perceived reductions in nukes is met with moves that are perceived alignment with Article 6 MBT. Coalescing politics around the metaphor of nuclear reductions gets perceived by senior military officials. Global leaders as either an actual or prelude to material reduction in nukes, which locks in MPT rebuttal because countries want to trust the US 5 legitimacy. 731 MPTs are developed with international proliferation. However, if it's daunting issues reuse cycles first going into MPT starts and attraction of states take action on advancing most of the pro large disarmament states which cooperate on Article 6 and MPT grand pardon linked disarmament with non-proliferation market add non-proliferation. The status quo is not prolif. When they have not read evidence that the status quo results in widespread proliferation or the assholes linked to, there's no answer to 1C from an evidence nuclear energy makes global prolif and now because it provides a cover for development and uses rigorous statistical studies to confirm this. 3 disarm brings the MPT back stronger than ever. It's the largest internal linkage to use hypocrisy and Article 6 and failure to denuclearize destroy its credibility. Countries not only lack an incentive to aid it but also lack the incentive to buy into texture and structures. That's wrong. The prolif impact is not self-fulfilling. 1 no link. Their evidence that starts to proliferation upholds Western exceptionalism. That's not true. The DA, which says that Western countries getting more nukes is bad too, there's no terminal impact to it in the 2C3 reps don't share reality. 14 particular representation on particular response to no cause relationship between the image and average formation opinions depends on individual idiosyncratic right preservation called theory misconceived how the visual recasts the political for discourse does not translate into action. Pasuk and 19 0 decision with the audience right the speech act opera supports a subjective approach on the effect of intersubjective insights media media internal validity trumps external validity performance and denotatus. The passage from speech act to audience acceptance and temperance validity by theoretical adjustment which would then jettisoning the view that disagrees speech act. There's no atomic genocide DA1. They don't solve other countries proliferating in conflicts not novel. They do not read evidence on this in the 1A. They need to read evidence on this in the 1A to make such a sweeping claim even if their empirics are true. That does not assume the length of the DA2. Even if they solve nuclear war there's a dropped radioactive colonialism impact and turns case argument and there's no impact to civil defense logic offense. We agree that nuclear weapons spreading is bad. The disarming civil defense logic makes it worse and we don't need to win. The nuclear deterrence is inherently good but we will defend the status quo if if we go for status quo in case that doesn't endorse nuclear corporations using black prison labor, but with made turns case and impact framing arguments as to why the act is worse. Now prioritize extinction. 1. Irreversibility to death denies agency for positive experience for everyone. Always on your scope. 2. Ethics killing everyone for ethics justifies genocide. Nukes are independently painful and disproportionate harm marginalized populations worse. The worst form of structural violence that justifies immense militarism to be consequences is good and enable they can simultaneously win their impact. And B. Extinction outweighs any comparison to make sides the cost benefit analysis, which is inherently utilitarian. 4. The argument on case. It's not anti-black to say extinction first. White people survives as the DA turns the case argument. Extinction is unique, preventing existential risk and framing as we claim it's good calls. And says in 18. Reception laws, vulnerability, race, information, expected ways, and differences that we import from political democracy broadly, sometimes scholars, sometimes all people facing baldwin shifts. We to represent all people, sometimes remember the white U.S. is encouraged upon the innocence of the collectors, white subject to zero habitats and subtle subject to do not live far from planetary collapse and chaos that are pursuit of thinking towards present optimism I do about seizing opportunities, mark out opportunities, and 5. Our impacts outweigh under their framing. Operating 23. Nuclear energy extractivism and the same nuclear fuel chain under which weapons rely on main attack and balloons more and more states adopting nuclear power toward the lever by the face of claims that nuclear energy is green. Sustainable that some philosophers are concluded with ethically mandated uranium is indigenous than nuclearism is strictly inextricable from the reproductive futurity of colonialism and imperialism.
We have 904.
Hold on. 904 is starting now. Okay. Alright. Yeah, that's fine. And then the only TVA you wrote is like the Richie stuff, right?
Yep.
Give me a second.
I don't know if y'all are muted. I'm about to mute. We have
I put it in already.
okay, 57 seconds or 58, I guess. There's no doc. I'm gonna get a sip of water so like my voice doesn't explode during the 1 hour, but the order is gonna be case, the event counter plan / the energy decide, and then it's gonna be framework. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna get water. Be back. I'm gonna close the door.
Did I? 13 tiles. No, it just said choice changed 13 tiles. I was like, ooh, what was that?
Holden, thumbs. Emory, thumbs. Diego, EKP. Chill. Okay, cool. I'll start in a couple seconds.
Civil defense marks black community at disposal of desegregation, slavery, mass incarceration, settlers, create the wide impact of distinction that creates the condition for nuclear weapons, and so violent the way it sees, not by futurism, disarmed by refusing to gain civil defense logic by imagining a future where black communities are invested to we answer presumptions defensively because bearing witness is our orientation and how we can make better people in this space after futurism and specific demand because lynching and civil rights example, the gender evidence solved, all dropped, yet this all is about funerals, but it's more about funerals, it's about bearing witness to violence that civil defense and placed on the black people was historically mobilized the movement, they dropped that bearing witness, turned into the movement like the civil rights movement to prove that we were whooping them on historical example. We have outlined features of Austin Coalition in example P Black procedure, Black Month, History Month procedure go to now one is not meant to bring them we're doing their Black History Month, not centering Black warriors, the region rejected team drop they have made zero effort the entire round, one urgency text unique space because they abandoned CRT, two drop that, not acknowledging the list of people in the 20C game, magnified unique question, they replicate erasure, the battle not solved because signal Emory that the battle does solve this because they signal Emory the other team that they in order to not lose they must research after this round, also drop the impact turns to the fairness and black acts of black unfairness are better to create and celebrate black voices in the form of reparation, that's what white servicing and educational space, white is good, drop we, 4, 3, and 5 minutes, we will answer Alexander Carr, the reason why he brushed off because Alexander is an Av Carr, says we can only be, says that we can only be done in Black History Month when we get rid of whitewashing, to drop all our arguments with the status quo of Black radio would mean that the Av is a prerequisite, the counterplay one permitted to both not music exclusive, I'm pretty sure if you drop the counterplay, but if but also we use some people this out optimism, and the USG is bad, and they'll never, this will never happen, the wrong story, putting USG, the life found ways to side script their commitment to black people like Emory did, i.e. the emancipation came in the 13th, get over 48 to the meal, etc., dropping our power, okay, meaning that Burger promises zero counter to solvency, and impact turns fiat, also 3 does not solve the Av, does not challenge civil logic in debate, civil defense logic in debate, and not challenge nuclear weapon, universality will still be in the realm of residential segregation, and failed to the MPIC, politics, minimum wage fails because it does not resolve the issue that black people have been robbed of the income, also making your ethical commitments to the people of color the issue before fundability disconnects us as actions to put black people in the back front, both the narrow pedagogical integrity as to become first because traditional debate before the traditional defense of nukes, also the disc goes to now one, the case outweighs the generation of live loss and destabilizing conditions, like racism and the death of black people outweighs how they disarm the metaphysical level beyond traditional impact calculus. No link or evidence says about just said non-nuclear states are mad because nuclear weapon states are not disarming nuke. There's no sentence that says more disarmament equal more spending of nuclear energy. Do not do the work for them because it is not there. Drop that framing issue means that they get no impact. We not disarm nuclear, disarm civil defense logic behind them. Also, they drop the example that they don't have a time plane or a time plane for it. Also, re-highlight do not apply. We will not defend the disarmament of the nuclear defense civil defense as a disarmament, but also means about disentangling effects of racism, how it affects the way we use the bomb, not the weapon itself. Re-highlighting, describing another app. Though we not defend. Also, we've called for disarming civil defense logic, which I did above. We there's no link to the Richie 22 evidence, but also we did not defend the movie that I highlighted in the Hurley evidence. Also, turn will drop ultimately status quo, makes proliferation of nukes around the world more likely. Their evidence says that non-nuclear states are mad because nuclear weapon states are not disarmed, which is what motivated countries like North Korea to back of the NPT in order and he did not be a part, but also proliferationism is discurrently produced and self-fulfilling. Drop that. The proliferation argument and Atlas evidence says that states are inevitably give up their nukes regardless of what the U.S. does. South Africa disarming their nukes proves. Also drop the status quo. A nuclear deterrence is unethical to AC. Evidence says that justified proxy war and eventually make people of color, which doesn't mean that they don't meet the Black History Month, but also takes that universalized discourse will be on framework proves that you should remember that all the evidence assumes it comes first because a discourse does shape reality and extinction is racist. Go to framework now. One framing issue for the framework debate is that debate is good, but it's a good place for activism and it does shape the way we engage with activism outside of space and will implicate how our model debate is better than there's 10 to AC definition. USOG is a compact into white town, the white supremacy debate for on Black History Month also resolved. You can analyze just how many symbolic nuclear forces include infrastructure, which includes civil defense that's bad enough. We need it. That's fairly metaphorical. Connections are good. Counter-interpretation intended now. One epistemological growth. The more you're forced to get catered, the more you learn about history and line the pedagogy of the press that makes it better people. That's Smith. Yes, subjectivity. One. What we do. Clash over does matter. We spend thousands of hours in activity every year, which outweighs friends, family, friends, etc. All people color are under our model, like Dave on the Devin Cooper, Luis Andrade, example prove that debate is a common denominator that changed their orientation towards the world. Revolutionary class solved their class stuff. Neg gives case turns, counter the arguments that solve their offense against the app. You argue Afrofuturism is bad, picks on the very witness, etc. KVK debates are good because you get links in the literature, links to everything. We create in-depth debates. 3. The radical expertility. People engage around whose story come better. That's above predictability. You prep according to John Wick and obviously self group to standards. 1. Limit teams that don't defend or reduction nuclear skills to see that answer the argument about any app being topical. We don't limit the bad when you still getting topic to a radical perspective. Have to do with that in the way that I formed the core of the topic. The negative grounds better year. I did that work above. Versus class it was above. Also the ballot pick 1 ballot is key. That was above. Also picks are funny. You still labor the app. They didn't engage in the performance to mean that you shouldn't win it. But also the anti-black and acceptable on Black History Month. They said no definition for radical. One spin says about we're uncovering the forgotten history of sports liberation. People that outweighs all their stuff. Also people they say people still read deterrence under our model, but no, our model will encourage you to get away from that stuff because it is unethical. Fairness 1. We have not said that all fairness is bad. We're impact turning their form of fairness. Civil defense is that the fear that KF we're in the debate is the form of civil defense. They see framework as a way to relegate us to the business pick it up because they see K debate as versa would enable the people death of people color across the globe with nuclear pedagogy in this space. That is nuclear education that explore the real world, which is a reason to reject the team. Only our model can solve it. Prefer liberatory framework, the counter-interpretation, expanded circle frames, allow for a diversity argument, let marginalized debaters explore different fields of knowledge, prefer reasonability on fairness, neg on or after the side of inclusion because overlimiting is racially exclusive class. One, we make it better, that was above, but it's on the head of like anti-nuclear and decide the ground they want. Still promote people, you should still promote the US over people, color promote war came that Reagan figured made the K of the battle, replicate the same logic as the usual industrial conflict that produces nuclear violence, also universal humanitarian decide the under model is endorsed a universal impact, which is a cross example above it proved, and it turns all the limits off and desire for a generic TVA 1 to erase your decide on Black History must still apply. And if you TVA does not talk about black people or features mean that you shouldn't buy prefer. Our evidence on Richie is more recent. Theirs is 9 years old, which means that we are a more updated version, but also the counter-interpretation still allowed for NFU, but through a critical perspective, switch side debate, all this has applied and cross-applied to from class and education, but also the alpha loses to the perm because disarm not competitive on the neg, also cross-apply universal humanitarian dissad, inconversion dissad, switch side debate says we should only read the alpha on the neg for inconversion to direct the curricular apocalypse, the form civil defense usual deck, also the diplomacy stuff, one framework has evolved to the police, people color in debate as a all-time high. It's not about how it started, about the way it's morphed, the ballot pick, I did it above, the labor dissad, know your ball is worse to the first debaters to go through racial gaslighting, which turns to burnout arguments. Look, the way that we engage this debate does matter. Subjectivity change is true because debate is a common denominator where people learn critical skills and explore it to the outside. Debate is key. And competition is good. Like what? 840. Okay. Can you do that? Okay.
Well, like it's not.
Sure. But just like.
I'm just saying, just like
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got you.
And then make sure it includes this one. The
Yeah. I have the
or
list.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, I have all that stuff.
Okay. I'm gonna work on
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm done. Then. Anything else? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
in here.
Yeah. That's okay. Do you mind if I use the bathroom before you start?
All good. Curtis is just using the bathroom, so I'm waiting for to get that. Wow, finally.
Alright, what's the order?
Hold me, you're good for an order two. It's gonna be case, topicality, the advantage counterplan, and then the DA.
Yeah, I don't think you've ever put case first.
New year, new me.
Yeah, we all know that's a
We
lie.
debated this year too.
Oh, did we? Oh, yeah, we totally did. New month, whatever.
You
Okay.
said it was case T and then like the that counterplan?
Yeah. Counterplan DA, sorry.
Counterplan DA.
Oh, 1 second, hold on. I have my computer muted. Sorry, what's up?
I was just asking Curtis to mute himself because he's unmuted on the Zoom.
My bad.
No echo. Holding. Everything's sounding good. I'm gonna start in 10 seconds. I think everyone's good. Cool. Long Beach cannot win this debate because the one arm handles presumption has dropped. The debate is a bad side for activism on Topic County, which straight turns every impact on them and is a massive D8 to the case in their counter model. First, vote negative on presumption, 2 people enough, and the one arm barely answer and bearing witness in room 200 is nothing to change the trajectory of the Austin Coalition or any movement they have cited. They have dropped their evidence about journalism and things like bearing witness at a funeral, not individual debate rounds, which proves that their examples do not matter. The limit test is that there is zero explanation of what new strategies they produce, how Afrofuturism interacts with those movements, or what departure from the status quo the F endorses an independent negative value because they have not met the burden of solvency. Second, debate is a bad side for activism. This was an explicit argument on Topic County that the one arm blows off valid does not correlate with truth, but are rather a reflection of better and worse technical debaters. Otherwise, Spark would not win debates, but their 1AC model utilizes debates as a starting point, which is bad because it means that bad strategies advocated by good debaters get exported, which is violent and puts the lives of other black and brown voters on the line. Now, no Black History Month framing the role as the balance vote for the better debater. The judge that communicates that to taboo our offenses, fairness, and clash on T. The 1 hour is too late to answer our 1 and C arguments. You should strike them off your flow. One debate is a model cannot solve urgency or erasure because our activism offensive that proves there's no internal link, but they get trapped within academia. Simple second is that simply reading a card about black nuclear activists is a bad frame to view reparations in their model. Just means that teams find one random black person and insert an FYI about their life, which is the worst form of tokenism. That's one to see Alexander III treating a ballot as a form of reparations is terrible. It is guilt dissuasion that dissuades radical politics out there. Drop 2 and C Myerson says that it mischaracterizes racism as individual rather than structural. For the ballot cannot hold us accountable to the bad model for that because it just incentivizes teams to go prep out an answer to this, not to me. Their inter, which means that it cannot solve thinking that it does is cruelly optimistic, which destroys genuine commitments to black history. Framework. Vote negative for limited topic to maximize the debate's potential for clash. This debate is not a forced choice between radical stations and plain debate, but the benefits of them reading their efforts to competitive incentives clash must outweigh because it is the only impact with the debate keyword. The thing that separates debate from every other activity's controversy. The clash under their inter is significantly worse. We lose the opportunity to have specific disagreements and bet debaters inculcate third and fourth line responses on every level of argumentation, pushes us to think like our opponents, which is key to make sure that we're better arguers and researchers regardless of what we advocate for. 2 important arguments. 1, they do not have a valid keyword. You can agree with the entirety of the 1AC and still vote negative with a net benefit of fairness. Second, you must protect my 2 and R. If you cannot draw a line from the 2AR warrant to the 1AR warrant, you should strike it off your flow because the 1AR shotguns many arguments but lacks warrants. Now the counter interpretations group their definition massively links or limits offense idea of disarming any individual weapon or armed forces of field day for schools like Northwestern, Dartmouth, and Harvard who have the resources to cut tiny affirmatives like get rid of one particular kind of submarine or eliminate SROs. That is 2, unlimiting in the negative does not have unified negative ground. Now counter model radical stasis links to our offense because there's no bright line and any attempt to establish what is a double tone with their offense. What is radical to a college debater in the world socialist form is very different than what is radical to a novice debater in rural Texas. Teams would exploit this uncertainty because the only bar they must meet is a one-liner in the 1AC for why their interpretation of nuclear forces as the economy or healthcare is radical. There's no threshold for uncovering history. Next is epistemological growth and subjectivity, which is wrong and disproves their base revolutionary capacity. They've dropped a few keywords. 1, you might vote for Y, but you certainly don't think that extinction is a good idea. Similarly, voting Afro-negative this debate does not rewire subjectivities because there's so many other larger all causes like school, family, and friends. We spend much more time around those in debate. Second, they have listed 4 debaters that have gone on to be activists and said that means debate change subjectivity. That's purely correlation, not causation, and it certainly does not translate into being the quote common denominator for every individual sect. Third is that clash turns is because debaters' benefits are gained from the process of debating. Now the content we might talk about arguments with other people when you are in a physical round or decision making is driven by competitive incentives. 4 is that we have a high price specific warrant for why if they do win subjectivity, our subjectivities are good. We have Red Richie, who's a 1AC author that agrees with an NFU. Now, there's no revolutionary clash on model solves KVK debates, but they've dropped that reforming K debates are better because they better simulate real world opposition and only predictability maximizes this, which ensures states that their model is worse for KVK debates because teams turn towards Capit and hedge generics, which recreates the balance that they have described. They have no reason for why their model encourages people to not read deterrence. They do not solve any of our limits of ground offense because nuclearism and discourse is inherently limiting because there's no common understanding of what is and is not nuclearism. Now the ballot picks stuff. Picks are good against non-topical, last one predictable. They should be able to defend what the ballot is key to solve their offense. Second, net ground outweighs not answer on condo advocates first and last speech. Third, it does not steal their labor. It merely proves that you can vote for us and give the other parts of the flow that we are on. Fourth is right to the argument, not the team. The fairness impact turn is wrong and nothing about our model renders K debate subversive. They've dropped the straight turn. Their model destroys minority participation because the burden of preparation is untenable. Competitive equity is the largest internal link to this because it ensures an equal playing field in the ground. But you know that voting after this debate does not do anything, which means that there's only a risk that voting negative solves our offense. Whereas the way that we have deployed framework and fairness in this debate is good. They are not reasonable. That was all the limits of about. Over limiting is not a form of whitewashing. Their inverse is true that their inter explodes limits, which also crowds out the ability to meaningfully engage with their content. The next argument is clash evens. They don't have a warrant for why they're made clash better, but they destroy predictability, which is the key internal link. There's no hegemonic nuclearism. That's which side means that you get to critique it out to the heart of why this state is bad. They have dropped that process debates are good. Nitty-gritty details of stakeholders. Decision making in nuclear policy teaches us to navigate a complex field with accuracy. Hold governmental actors like Lockheed accountable. There's no universal humanity decide nothing about our model. Is extinction scenarios over and over again. The TVA disproves this because the debate does not need to be about large-scale extinction, but rather the legacy of colonialism. I'll do that now. The TVA adopted an NFU read genealogy of black scientists, which proves that we solve a ratio. The negative can respond with the critique of conventional shift and how there's a historical legacy of racism. There is a direct trade-off which proves a permutation to the non-starter. The civil defense is that framework, fairness, and procedurals are not how weaponizations are violent impositions, you should not turn a blind eye to its violent past. You equally should not turn a blind eye to how it has evolved over time to engage with the ass content, attempting to capture the issues that they value through topical versions and switch side in the explanation of clash that have evolved from no case to strategy voting and organizationally. Most importantly, voting F cannot solve this offense. The Tuancy had amazing words for why there is no revolutionary potential in debate. We get constantly confused on campus for mock trial or model even explaining chat room appearance is a nightmare. The premise that this activity, let alone this individual debate, contains the capacity to make meaningful changes actually zero. Only voting negative can resolve procedural fairness, and they've dropped the thinking that this debate has any potential. It's cruelly optimistic, which turns off their strategy voting offense because it means that we think that we pat ourselves on the back when we do something and can't, which dissuades truly radical bodies out there. Advantage counterclaim. Concede the premise that it has a competition. They cannot go for theory because the 1AR does not respond to a single one in our argument of theory and topicality always won. There's no link just because we are not going for the counterplay does not mean that our personal commitment to the black travel is fungible. The negative should be able to condense strategies in the 2NR topicality is the best strategy in this debate. Second, neck flex outweighs they agree. The debate is a game when they're injured means that the app gets to anticipate the 2NR drop, that there's an app side bias, which means that conditional counterplays are key when on the neck. Now, presumption was conceded here too. We flagged it that the cruel optimism DA turns out takes out case. The 1AR extended the dissent, but did not answer that in Zero's case. If it's true that the government will never do the policies that their evidence says is key, that is a form of cruel optimism that wrecks solvency because it means there's no telos to any of the activism that they might endorse. There's no new to our answers. Hold the line. The DA will concede there is no link. They don't produce nuclear weapons that bolsters all topicality arguments. They cannot extend deterrence or unethical or extinction racist as offense against topicality because the topical version solves this because it includes the historical legacy of colonialism. It does not need to be extinction level impacts. They drop a litany of reasons why extinction framing is most ethical, but neither are necessary under a model of debate, which does not require either argument being forefronted independently. Their model ensures that people read more extinction scenarios back at them because they turn towards generics like Hapgood or Headcoach, which means that the only risk of solving both their offense and our offense is voting negative.
58. That's 58. You don't want to see the 2 yet?
Oh, I'm gonna come back.
R.I.P.
58 seconds. Holden, are you there? Okay. Order is case and then framework. That presumption stuff on the counter plan will be mentioned on case. Give me a second. Okay, Holden, are you good? Alright, let me get this document back to Emory, are we good? Okay, Curtis? Alright. Alright.
Breonna Taylor, Letitia King, Ahmaud Arbery, Ennis Wilkins, Edwin Russell, Monty Taylor, Rob Gardner-Davis, Enrico Fermi, George Reed, Lord Quarterman, Lawrence and William Knox, Harold Delaney, Benjamin Scott, Jasper Jeffries, Davon Love are all names that we have honored on Black History Month that Emory has refused to honor. Even if you think we are losing presumption, we are winning that we have a valid key warrant for why honoring Black history in the space in a place like Austin is key to combat civil defense in and outside the space, because this space is one that has historically embraced Black history to uphold white futures. That the status quo is a form of Black erasure means that standing in solidarity to bearing witness then makes us more likely to fight against those banned events outside this space. We are winning presumption. We have material and historical examples where bearing witness to the Winning Sea mobilizes movement. Strands dropped at the open casket of Emmett Till is what started the civil rights movement, which fought for monumental gains against civil defense. It means we have a spill out warrant for why voting have a key to actualize our movements, because it signals bearing witness is a good idea. Afrofuturism in this space is good because realizing that anti-black is a nuclear force forces to realize that the USFG will not help black futures, but realizing the organizing potential in We Some People does. Drop down framework that We Some People challenges white exclusion, and a 2 hours tagline extension of presumption across every single flow drops the civil rights warrants, which means the 1AC is uniquely key and answers the counterblind warrants. On Black History Month, the ballot should go to the team that provides the best method for black liberation. This is a procedural argument that comes first before any framework argument, and requires each side to present arguments couched in the black radical tradition, or they have not met the burden of honoring black racism. Throughout this entire every single speech, Emory has refused to acknowledge not even one single black voice throughout this entire round, and his reason to reject the team. 3 reasons. 1 is urgency. Drop. Texas engaged in academic bookmans and police brutality, which means black people are being erased epistemically and physically. Our role of the ballot is necessary to use this space for resistance strategies. Debate is necessary because the community erases black voices, which will be on framework. 2nd is that black anti-nuclear activists are nowhere seen in this topic, evidenced by Emory's refusal to say their names, but also because of the one that sees performative decision to not honor any black nuclear voices. Is an independent reason to reject the team because they have replicated erasure. The ballot does change the way we engage in here, which will be on framework. 3, drop that any fairness or limits or clash arguments have been impact turned via the Jackson evidence. It says that you should embrace acts of black unfairness that would be unfair to non-black people, to celebrate black voices as a form of reparations. It says that when you create academic forms of distortion to hold space for black celebration, Jackson says that these disruptive acts challenge white supremacy and the racialized deployment of framework. The key framing issue is that Emory has not posited a reason why their model would be able to solve any of the problems besides the shitty TVA that does not mention black people once, but only we have a risk of solving it. They say one round can't solve. That was never our interpretation, because our interpretation is about debates over the course of a season, and also, even if one round can't solve, our argument is that holding space via the Jackson evidence should be a sufficient reason. Our burden should not be to resolve every single form of anti-blackness in this debate, but rather to celebrate black voices, and only the affirmative has done that, and they have dropped a reason why acts of unfairness are good. The answer, they say one random black person. This is a new argument in 2 hour, but remember, this is Emory, not us. Our interpretation would solve this, because our argument is not say their name solely, but also defend black resistance strategies, which is something that they have not done, evidenced by the fact that they have kicked a counterplan that would provide liberation for our black people. They have chosen the wrong 2 hour, which means it is a performative diss to their model. The condo good arguments do not matter in this space, because it is a question of the Jackson evidence coming first, and a question of ethics over whether or not we get to run conditional advocacies, because I learned debate in a traditional way that has historically excluded black people. The bomb of anti-blackness and nuclear force that radiates across civil society go to framework now. Since the crossings of the Twin Cities, Shreyas and Grace have made it very clear on the road that they stand on. They don't think debate shapes subjectivity. They don't think that the type of clash we have in this round matters. They don't give a fuck about honoring black voices on Black History Month, because the Twin Cities argument on crossings was reparation logic's bad. This is something that you should hold against them when thinking about the framework, because it means that the model of debate you endorse if you vote negative is one that has zero concern about rectifying past injustice against black debaters. The legacy of the PRL and the fact that PRL advocates are still in coaching positions, the fact that black debaters have to get their videos taken out on YouTube because the racial insults people throw them online, the locker room talk that debaters engage in when they're not in the room, the history of Emory as an institution that has upheld these discriminatory arguments. Our argument is that the way they go for framework cannot be separated from a violent legacy that has sought to police argumentation coded as black. Hold in any other example you can think of in your head, or any other example that doesn't come up in your head because of your status as a non-black person should tell you that this space needs reparative justice for black debaters, and Emory's assertion that debate should not take a month to honor the contributions of black debaters is what will lose them this debate. It is a diss that outweighs any benefit you get from their model, because it is inevitably whitewashed. Every NFUF, every deterrence diss at every sole purpose counterplan or conventional shit will never have cards that specifically explain why this is a pressing issue for black people, evidenced by the fact that every single one of their defensive extinction cards never mentioned black people once, because the fundamental truth of it is that Emory's model debate does not care about black people in the first place. Now I will clean up the flow, extend every single Twitchy definition, because it was dropped. The USOG is a racist contract, and you should instead prefer we some people challenge white supremacy in debate. Result means to analyze this, or means to abolish nuclear forces and include infrastructure with inclusive defense. Conceded that civil defense is a nuclear infrastructure because it requires the disinvestment of black futures via gentrification, but it is also a nuclear discourse because of the logic of the racial that justifies how we point nukes in the first place. Extend the counter-generation. Only we can resolve this performative offense that they have failed to engage in the correct manner. Affirmative engage revolution through radical siege point, which means affirmative restriction of U.S. nuclear force through critical perspective. Drop the limits. Defense teams that don't defend a reduction of nuclearism can still lose the T, and the clients have to be tied down to the core of the topic, which allows for negative generics. Negative ground is better because it rectifies the Black History Month arguments. You can still read case notes, but you can also read critiques like futurism versus pacifism, dual power versus anarchism, linebackers versus ground relationality, because they promote liberation strategies over top-down approaches. Limited topic. Your limited topic is anti-black, so rejected. The radical diss that the Smith evidence obviously answers this. Smith says that adequate theory is lack critical theory, Afro pessimism, anti-blackness, womanism, etc. Which you can read the card very far. The subjectivity argument is obviously answered by that stuff of identity, but the Richie NFU evidence should be zero by the Richie NFU TVA should be zero by the fact that they not list any black voices in this debate. They say we force people to reach out good. Obviously not, because of the extension of the counter model, the switch side argument already implicated by the fact that they did not honor black voices, which means you should not trust them. They say that the model UN stuff at the bottom of the twin art, bro. Who gives a fuck about this model UN stuff? Our argument is not about being able to explain what debate is. It's about making this debate space better, and obviously they don't care about that.
Debate.